The evening was warm and calm when everything changed. Keanu Reeves stepped out of the hotel lobby with slow steps, dressed simply, no bodyguards, no grand presence, just himself. He did not expect a crowd. He did not expect noise. He believed this was just another quiet evening after a long day of work. But sometimes life surprises us in ways we do not see coming. The street outside the hotel was already waiting. People had gathered with phones, cameras, and hopeful eyes. Some were fans who admired his kindness. Others were curious. And some were just there because crowds draw more crowds. The moment he walked outside, voices rose softly at first, then louder. Keanu, Keanu. He gave a small smile, gentle, humble, the kind of smile that says thank you without needing words. He waved slowly. He did not hide. He did not rush. He treated every person as real, not just faces in a crowd. That is who he is. But then something unexpected happened. A second door opened from the side of the hotel. A familiar figure stepped out. Sandra Bullock. She wore no makeup, no glamorous outfit. Just a sweater, jeans, and a tired but warm expression. She had come to meet him privately, quietly, away from the world. They had known each other for years. Friends, partners in laughter. To people who understood each other without needing to explain anything. They were supposed to have a quiet dinner, just catching up on life. But the second the crowd saw her, everything shifted. Voices rose. Whispers turned into questions. Eyes widened. Some fans gasped softly, like they were witnessing something sacred or surprising. Cameras raised higher. Within seconds, the small scene turned into something bigger. A moment that should have been quiet became something public. Keanu saw her and his expression softened instantly. Not dramatic, not romantic, just warm. A connection that was real. He stepped forward and gently touched her shoulder. Not a hug, not a dramatic reunion. Just a small, reassuring touch that said, I am here, and you are safe. But the crowd did not see it like that. Crowds rarely see the gentle truth in moments. They saw two hearts, two familiar faces, two souls who always shared something beautiful on screen. And suddenly, whispers began spreading like wind through leaves. Are they together? Is this real? Did they keep this secret for years? The questions were not cruel, only curious. But curiosity can easily become pressure. Sandra felt the intensity. She hesitated for a second. Keanu noticed. His eyes softened even more, steady and grounding. He leaned closer and whispered just for her, we are okay. Just breathe. She nodded, trusting him. But that was only the beginning. Because the world was watching. And the world loves to create stories where silence exists. And soon, this moment would turn into headlines, theories, discussions, and something far more emotional than either of them expected. The next morning, the world woke up buzzing. Photos and short videos from the hotel scene were everywhere. Social media feeds filled with their names. People posted the moment Keanu placed his hand gently on Sandra's shoulder, replaying it again and again. The internet does not need answers to create a story. It only needs a moment. And this moment was enough. But inside Sandra's home, the morning was quiet. She sat at her kitchen table, holding a cup of tea she hadn't taken a sip from. The steam rose and disappeared into the air, just like the peace she had hoped for the night before. She didn't regret being there with Keanu. She never would. But she had known this would happen. The world always turns gentle things into stories louder than they are. She opened her phone and saw countless messages, reporters, interview requests, friends asking what was happening, strangers commenting. Some messages were sweet, full of love and admiration, but some were sharp, filled with assumptions, opinions, and conclusions spoken like truth. She set the phone down, feeling her heart tighten. Keanu, meanwhile, was sitting near his window, the morning sun on his face. He had also seen the news. He saw the way people were analyzing his expression, her expression, the small touch of his hand, the distance between them, the exact angle of their smile. It amazed him how the world could take something delicate and make it heavy. He sighed softly and typed a message. Are you all right? Sandra saw it instantly. Her eyes softened. She typed back, I will be. Just overwhelmed. He replied, I understand. I am here if you need. She closed her eyes for a moment. He always said things simply. No heavy words. No pressure. Just presence. The kind that feels like a hand held in the dark. Later that day, they met again. Not at a hotel. Not at a public place. Keanu chose a small park hidden behind tall trees, where the wind sounded like whispers and sunlight falls quietly on the grass. They sat together on a wooden bench, away from the noise. They didn't speak at first. They just sat, listening to the world breathe. Finally, Sandra spoke. "I didn't want them to take our moment." Keanu nodded slowly. "They didn't," he said. "They only saw what they could see. But they will never understand what we know." Her eyes filled, but not with sadness, with relief, with gratitude. "You always know how to make things gentle," she whispered. Keanu looked at her, not with intensity, but with quiet kindness. "I know how to stay," he said. That is all. Those words drifted through her like a warm breeze. But the world was far from finished. Rumors were only beginning. And soon, the noise would not only surround them, it would test them in ways neither expected. The rumors began to grow faster than either of them could have imagined. News sites created headlines filled with emotion. The two of them had never spoken. Interviews from years ago were brought back and twisted into new meanings. Moments from movies were edited into romantic montages. Comments spread like wildfire, each one louder than the last. People wanted to believe in a love story, but they didn't understand that sometimes the strongest bond is not romance. Sometimes it is a quiet connection that does not need a name. One evening, Sandra sat on her living room couch with the lights off, only the soft glow of the lamp near the window. Her home was calm, but her heart was full of noise. She had spent years learning how to protect her private life. She knew how to smile publicly, but never show the soft, unguarded parts of her heart. But now, it felt like the world was trying to open doors she had kept closed for reasons only she understood. She picked up her phone but didn't call or text. She just held it, breathing slowly, steadying herself. Meanwhile, Keanu was sitting in a small library room in his home. Books surrounded him, shelves full of stories. He had always found comfort in quiet places. He knew how it felt to be misunderstood. He had learned to live softly in a loud world. But seeing Sandra pulled into the noise because of him made his chest tighten in a way he could not ignore. He stood up and walked outside into the night. The sky was clear. The moon hung like a silent guardian. He took a slow breath and made a decision. The next morning, he arrived at Sandra's doorstep. He didn't call first. He just showed up, the same way she knew he always would. When she opened the door, her eyes were tired, but they softened when she saw him. They didn't speak for a moment. They didn't need to. She stepped aside and let him in. They sat across from each other in the quiet living room. The sunlight rested on the table between them. "I do not want you to feel pressure because of me," Sandra said softly. Keanu shook his head slowly. "This is not pressure," he replied. "This is life, and we face it together." She looked down at her hands, her voice barely a whisper. "Why is it so hard for people to understand something simple?" Keanu leaned forward slightly. "Because most people have never experienced something gentle," he said. "So they try to name it, control it, explain it. But some things are not meant to be explained. They are meant to be felt." Sandra felt her breath tremble, not from sadness, but from something she had forgotten she could feel. Trust. But as comforting as this moment was, neither of them knew that something bigger was coming. Something that would force them to confront not just the world, but their own hearts. A few days later, Keanu and Sandra attended a charity event together. It was not planned. They had both already agreed to attend before the rumors started. Their names were on the list. Backing out now would only create more noise, more questions, more attention. So they decided to face it with calm hearts, side by side. The hotel lobby where the event was held was full of lights, cameras, and whispers. People turned when they walked in. Some smiled warmly. Some stared too long. Some whispered behind their hands. Sandra took a slow breath, but before the anxiety could settle in her chest, Keanu reached out and gently touched her hand, not holding it, just grounding her, reminding her she was not alone. They entered the ballroom together, walking with quiet grace. The room was filled with people in elegant suits and glittering dresses. Conversations floated like soft noise across the room. But when they stepped in, the room seemed to shift, not with shock, but with curiosity. They greeted people politely. They smiled in a soft, honest way. They kept close, not because they were trying to prove anything, but because the world was loud, and staying near each other made it easier to breathe. As the evening went on, a reporter approached them. She looked kind, but her eyes were sharp. She moved slowly, carefully, the way someone does when they want to get close without alarming anyone. "Keanu, Sandra," she said softly. "May I ask you a question?" They both nodded politely. "There are many people who believe your connection is something more than friendship. How would you describe it?" The room grew quiet around them. Cameras adjusted. People leaned in. The question was gentle, but it held weight. It was not rude. It was not cruel. It was simply heavy. Keanu could have laughed. He could have deflected. He could have given a clever answer. But he did in single quotes. Instead, he spoke slowly, honestly. "The world thinks love is always romantic," he said. "But love has many shapes. Some of the strongest love is friendship, respect, trust. We care for each other deeply. And that is enough." Sandra listened, her heart warming in a way she could not describe. She added softly, without fear, "We do not need to name everything to make it real." The reporter nodded, surprisingly moved. She stepped back. No more questions. Something shifted in the room. People relaxed. Conversations resumed. The moment passed, gentle, like a breath. Later that night, they stepped outside onto a quiet balcony. City lights glowed below them like fallen stars. Sandra leaned on the railing and whispered, "Thank you for protecting what we have." Keanu looked at her with gentle eyes and said, "I am not protecting it. I am honoring it." And in that moment, Sandra realized something she had not understood fully until now. Some people do not enter your life to fill an empty space. They enter to show you that nothing inside you was ever empty at all. But the world was not finished watching them yet. And something unexpected was about to happen, something that would turn all whispers into silence. Days turned into weeks, and slowly the noise began to fade. Not completely, but enough for the world to shift its attention somewhere else, as it always does. Sandra and Keanu continued living quietly, the same way they always had. They met sometimes for coffee, sometimes for long walks, sometimes for quiet silence that spoke louder than words. Their bond became stronger, not because of the rumors, but because they faced them together. But peace never stays for long. One afternoon, Sandra received a call she wasn't expecting. A message from her publicist, her voice tight with something unsaid. "You should sit down before I tell you," she said. Sandra's single quotes' heart tightened. She sat, fingers trembling slightly. "There's a story coming out," her publicist continued. "A large magazine is claiming that you and Keanu have been secretly in love for years. They are publishing private moments, details, dates, things they cannot possibly know." Sandra felt her breath freeze in her chest. "They're making it up," she whispered. "Yes," the publicist said, "but it will spread fast." Sandra put her phone down. She closed her eyes. The quiet house around her suddenly felt too small, too still. Not because the rumor was hurtful, but because it tried to define something that belonged only to her and Keanu. And something inside her cracked. Not from the rumor itself, but from the fear of losing the one thing she trusted. She stepped outside, sat on the porch steps, and let the wind move through her hair. She did not cry. She simply breathed, slowly, deeply. Keanu found out the same day. He read the article. He saw the photos, taken in quiet moments where they thought no one was watching. Him handing her a coffee on a sidewalk, her laughing at something he said. Him placing a coat on her shoulders when she was cold. Moments so gentle, they were never meant for the world. Keanu's single quotes' chest tightened, but not with anger. He had lived in the public eye for decades. He knew how the world operated. But this time, something was different. Because this time, he wasn't alone in the spotlight. He went to her house without calling. When she opened the door, her eyes were tired, full of emotion she didn't know how to release. He stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her. Not a dramatic embrace, but a steady, grounding one. She rested her forehead against his chest, eyes closed, breathing in the quiet peace that only he could give. After a long moment, she whispered, "I don't want them to take this from us. Keanu held her a little tighter, his voice calm and warm. "They can't," he said. "They can talk, they can assume, they can guess, but they do not get to define us. Only we do." She looked up at him, tears glimmering, not from pain, but from relief. "So what do we do now?" she asked softly. Keanu breathed in slowly, like he was gathering the weight of the world in his lungs just to let it go. "We continue," he said. But life was about to reveal something neither of them expected, something that would silence every rumor, every whisper, every doubt, not with words, but with one quiet moment the world would never forget. A few days later, an event came that neither of them could avoid. It was a tribute night, honoring artists who had given their heart to film for many years. Both Keanu and Sandra were invited, not because of rumors, but because their work had shaped generations. They arrived separately, as they always did. No planned entrances, no staged moments, just a people living their own lives. Inside the theater, the lights were dim and warm. The audience sat quietly, waiting for the program to begin. As the host spoke about kindness, humility, and the power of silent support, a screen behind him began to show memories, scenes from movies, moments from interviews, and behind-the-scenes laughter of actors through time. Then, suddenly, a scene appeared that no one expected. It was an old clip from the set of a film they had worked on together many years ago. The camera had not been staged. It was not meant for the world. It was simply there, recording life as it happened. In the video, Sandra was sitting on a break chair, her head lowered like she was tired. Keanu quietly placed a blanket around her shoulders. He did not speak. He did not do it for cameras. He simply did it because she looked cold. The audience fell silent. There was no music, no dramatic voice, just a moment of gentle care. Then the video continued. Another scene, years later. Sandra laughing so hard she was doubled over, while Keanu tried to keep a straight face and failed. They shared a laugh that was warm and real. Then another moment, them sitting under a tree reading lines together, talking softly, as if the world around them did not exist. These were not romantic scenes. They were proof of something deeper. Connection. The crowd watched in complete silence, not gossiping, not speculating, just feeling. Sandra felt her chest tighten, but not from stress, from recognition, from memory. These moments were real. They were hers. And now the world was seeing them, not twisted, not edited, just as they were. Keanu watched too, his expression soft, calm, thoughtful. He was not embarrassed. He was not afraid. He simply looked like someone acknowledging the truth of a long journey. When the video ended, the audience did not cheer loudly. They didn't need to. They simply applauded gently, like they were honoring something sacred, the rare beauty of two souls who never needed to name what they were. After the event, they stepped outside together. The night air was cool. The sky was clear. The crowd that once shouted now stayed quiet, watching with respect rather than curiosity. Sandra looked up at Keanu and whispered softly, "They finally saw it." Keanu nodded. "Not the rumor," he said. "The truth." She smiled, not big, not dramatic, just warm, honest. And in that small, quiet moment, the world understood. Not every love story is about romance. Some are about holding space, being present, and choosing each other again and again, without needing to explain.